Although cognitive levels are used throughout all subjects, in all our teaching and assessment, and even for all age groups, many subjects have interpreted those cognitive levels specifically for their subject matter. Mathematical literacy have used those three basic levels: your knowledge and facts, which is your lower order thinking, your understanding and reasoning, your middle order thinking, and then the highest order, which is your reflection on your own thoughts and your judgment. They've taken that and they've interpreted it into 4 levels that are appropriate for the skills needed for mathematical literacy. Mathematical literacy has 4 levels. Level 1, or the lowest order, is knowing, where the learners are able to read information maybe from a table, they're able to read values, they are able to perform conversions, or just basic measuring and being able to do it accurately. The next level is applying routine procedures in a familiar context. So here they might be able to take a set of data and calculate the mean, the median, and the modal averages. They might be able to estimate values. They're using their knowledge from the knowing level and being able to apply it in a familiar context. The next level is taking it one step further. Not only are they able to apply it in a familiar context, but now they can apply multi-step procedures in a variety of contexts. So it just takes it to the next level. And this might be being able to use inflation rates and investigate an estimated value, or possibly deciding on a most appropriate graph that they can use in a particular situation. The highest order would then be reasoning and reflecting, where learners are expected to provide their own opinion on something, or make their own decision, or draw their own conclusions. So you can see maths literacy has basic thinking, moderate order thinking, moderately high order thinking, and then your highest order thinking. Now, the mathematical literacy curriculum gives us guidelines on how much time we should spend during our teaching on each of these levels of thinking, as well as through our assessment. So 20% of your time should be spent on higher order thinking, 20% on moderately high order thinking, 30% on moderate order thinking, and 30% on basic thinking. Now, what does that mean in our teaching? We need to ensure that we spend the most appropriate time on each of these levels and not too much time on the lowest order thinking. This is for both our teaching and the amount we assess. Let's use the example of teaching a graph and again assessing the graph. 30% of our time should be spent on the basic fundamentals, showing the learners, developing the skills of actually reading values directly from the graph. That's your factual levels. From there, we need to spend at least 30% of our time, the same amount of time in the lowest order, on showing the learners how to estimate values from the graph. So this is again not just for our teaching, but the amount of time in the assessment that we spend on it. Once the learners have grasped those 2 levels, 20% of our time should be developing their thinking to the level that they're able to decide on the most appropriate way to represent data. So for example, do we use a graph or a table? And then the highest level is again 20% of our time, where learners are encouraged to provide opinions and be able to explain trends and patterns they see on this actual graph. And what we find more and more is teachers are having to spend so much time on the basics, on those reading values directly from the graph and the estimating of values, that 60%, that they never get to the top 40%. And we need to ensure that in all our teaching and assessment, that we use all of those different levels and that we use them appropriately and spend the appropriate amount of time on that. This is the only way that we can ensure that our learners develop the appropriate and correct skills that they need in mathematical literacy. First of all, to progress to the next grade and be able to use these skills and develop them in the next grade, but also that once they leave school, they've got these skills to use in the workplace.